Aaron had always been curious about places far away from home. When he heard about the great alien city that held the tallest clock tower in the known worlds, he could not resist the temptation to see it with his own eyes. Many travelers told stories about it, a tower that never stopped ticking, no matter what storms passed through the skies. Some said it was built before humans even learned how to sail their seas, and some claimed it kept the heartbeat of the city alive. For Aaron, it was not just a monument, but a call. Something about the sound of endless time had pulled him across the stars. The city itself was unlike anything he had known. The streets curved in wide arcs, paved with shining stones that seemed to glow faintly under the twin suns. Tall buildings stood like silver trees, bending slightly as if in greeting to the sky. The people who lived here were taller than Aaron, their movements graceful, their voices calm and soft. They were not hostile, yet they carried a quiet distance, a way of showing that Aaron was not one of them. Still, he walked with open eyes, absorbing every detail. Children of the alien race ran past him, laughing, their bright garments flowing behind them. Merchants called from their stands, offering fruits that shimmered like gems, and fabrics that caught light in impossible colors. Aaron felt the wonder of it all, but inside his chest there was a small ache too. He was human, and here, humans were few. He wondered if he would spend his days here as nothing more than a passing shadow. Then, his steps brought him near the clock tower. It rose far above the city, piercing the clouds with its sharp peak. Its surface was carved with lines that seemed to move like rivers, glowing faintly in the sunlight. And at its center, the great circle of the clock pulsed with a rhythm that could be heard even from the streets below. Aaron paused, staring up, and for a moment he forgot everything else. The ticking was steady, calm, endless. He felt it in his bones. That was when he saw her. She stood near the base of the tower, quiet and still, as if the world around her did not exist. She was not like the others who passed by quickly, treating the tower as an old familiar sight. Her eyes were lifted toward the clock, but in her hands she held a small tablet where lines of sketches covered the surface. She was drawing the tower, line by line, as though she wanted to capture not just its form but its soul. Aaron stopped walking. Something about her silence caught his attention. There was a softness in her face, a focus that felt strangely human even though she was not of his kind. He wondered why no one else noticed her, why she seemed like a lonely figure beside such a massive wonder. As if sensing his gaze, she looked up. Their eyes met. Aaron felt a small jolt, like the ticking of the clock had skipped for just a second. Her eyes were clear and deep, carrying both caution and curiosity. She did not speak, nor did he. Yet, in that instant, he felt something pass between them, an understanding, faint but real. He thought about stepping closer, about greeting her, but the moment was fragile. Instead, he gave a small, polite nod, and she lowered her gaze back to her sketching. But the connection lingered. Aaron's steps moved him forward, but his thoughts remained by the tower, and by her. As he walked away, the city lights grew brighter with the setting suns, but the image of her quiet figure stayed in his mind. He could not explain why, but he knew he would return. Not just for the tower, not just for the ticking that spoke of time, but for the silent stranger whose eyes had stopped his heart for a beat. That night, in the small room he rented, he could still hear the faint ticking of the tower carried by the wind. He lay on his bed, looking at the ceiling, and wondered if the clock truly measured only time or if it also measured moments like the one he had just lived. Moments when two souls noticed each other across a crowd, and something new began. Aaron closed his eyes with a quiet smile. Tomorrow, he promised himself, he would go back. The next morning, Aaron woke early. The first light of the twin suns poured through the window, painting golden lines across the floor. He felt restless, as if something was calling him. It was not the markets, not the foreign streets, and not the food stalls with their sweet scents. It was the tower. More than that, it was her. He tried to tell himself it was only curiosity. Perhaps he just wanted another look at the great clock, the endless gears and the sound of time that never stopped. But deep down, he knew the truth. He wanted to see if the quiet girl with the tablet would be there again. Aaron left the inn and made his way through the busy streets. The city was alive already. Voices rose in the air, vendors opened their shops, and bright banners waved gently in the breeze. Yet he noticed how the citizens gave him quick glances, some curious, others cautious. Humans were not hated here, but they were uncommon. That only made him walk with more confidence, pretending he belonged. When the tower came into view, his steps slowed. The sight still made him catch his breath. Its tall shape seemed to divide the sky, and the steady rhythm of its ticking echoed faintly through the square. And there by the base of the tower she stood again. Her figure was calm, just as yesterday. She sat on a low stone, tablet in hand, her long fingers moving with care as she drew lines across its glowing surface. The city bustled around her, but she did not seem to notice. Aaron felt a wave of relief. She was real, not a passing dream. This time, he did not hesitate. He walked closer. His footsteps echoed against the stones, and she looked up before he reached her. Their eyes met once more, and Aaron felt that small jolt again. "Good morning," he said softly. His voice carried a bit of nervousness, but he tried to smile. For a moment, she only studied him, as if weighing his words. Then she spoke, her tone gentle but clear. "You came back." Aaron chuckled lightly. "Yes. The tower, it pulls me in. I couldn't stay away." Her lips curved slightly, not quite a smile but something close. "The tower does that. Many say it chooses who will keep coming back." Aaron tilted his head. "And you? Do you come every day?" She nodded, holding up her tablet. On it was a detailed sketch of the tower's lower walls, each line drawn with patience. "I study it. I try to capture it piece by piece." He leaned a little to look. Her work was precise, almost perfect. The arches, the carvings, even the faint light patterns were there. He was impressed. "That's beautiful. You have talent." She lowered her gaze shyly. "It is not talent. It is practice. My family keeps records. I want to understand the tower better than anyone before me." There was a pause. The crowd moved around them, strangers passing, merchants shouting, children laughing. Yet Aaron felt as if the two of them stood apart, like the world had slowed. "I'm Aaron," he said after a moment. She looked at him carefully before answering. "Myra." The name felt soft on his tongue, like it belonged to the quiet rhythm of the clock itself. "Myra," he repeated, as if testing it. Her eyes flickered briefly toward him, a spark of curiosity in them. "You are human?" "Yes," Aaron said simply. He wondered if she meant it as a question or a reminder. Myra looked back at her drawing, her fingers tracing faint lines. "Few humans come here. Most do not stay long." Aaron shifted, leaning slightly against the stone wall near her. "Maybe I'll stay longer than most." She gave him a side glance, not unfriendly but cautious. Then she said, almost in a whisper, "The tower will decide." Aaron wanted to ask what she meant, but her attention returned fully to her sketch. He stood quietly beside her, watching the clock hands move slowly above. The sound of ticking filled the silence between them, but it was not an empty silence. It felt comfortable. After a while, Myra spoke again, her tone softer now. "Why do you come, Aaron?" "Truly." He thought for a moment. "I don't know. Maybe it's because the tower feels alive. Or maybe," he hesitated, then smiled. "Maybe it's because yesterday, I saw someone who made me stop walking." Myra's hand paused. She did not look at him, but he noticed the faintest shift in her expression. A quiet warmth touched her features, quickly hidden as she continued her drawing. They stayed there until the sun began to lower. Aaron knew he should return to his inn, but he felt no rush. Time passed differently by the tower. Or maybe it was simply her presence that made hours slip away like minutes. When he finally stood to leave, he gave her a small nod. "I'll see you tomorrow, Myra." This time, she did not look away. Her eyes met his, steady and calm. "We'll see," she replied softly. As Aaron walked back into the city, the sound of the ticking followed him again. But now, it was joined by the memory of Myra's voice. And for the first time in a long while, he felt like tomorrow could hold something more than just another day. The next day, Aaron returned to the tower before the markets had fully opened. The air was cool, carrying the faint scent of fresh rain from the night before. As he walked, he felt a quiet excitement, though he tried not to admit it to himself. It was not only the tower that called him, it was Myra. When he reached the base of the tower, she was already there. Myra sat with her back straight, her tablet resting on her knees. Her eyes were focused, but Aaron noticed the small way her hand paused when she realized he had arrived. She did not greet him right away, yet there was no surprise in her expression, almost as if she had expected him. "You came again," she said softly. Aaron smiled. "I told you I would." This time, instead of standing apart, he sat down a short distance from her. The stone beneath them was cool, and the sound of the ticking clock above filled the space like a steady heartbeat. For a while, neither of them spoke. Myra continued sketching the carved lines of the tower's base, while Aaron simply watched. Finally, he broke the silence. "Do you ever get tired of drawing the same thing every day?" Myra glanced at him briefly. "It is never the same. The tower changes with the light. Morning, noon, and night it looks different. Even the shadows tell new stories." Aaron tilted his head, studying the tower as she spoke. He had to admit she was right. The sunlight slid across its surface, catching on certain carvings while leaving others in shadow. He could see shapes he had not noticed before, like hidden patterns waiting to be discovered. "You see more than most," he said quietly. Myra lowered her gaze. "I look closely because I must. My people believe the tower holds secrets of our past. If I can capture every detail, maybe one day I will understand them." Aaron leaned back slightly, resting his hands on the stone. "And what do you think? Do you believe the tower really holds answers?" Her fingers stilled over the tablet. "I don't know. But I want to believe. Sometimes I feel like it watches us, as if it knows who comes and who goes." Aaron smiled faintly. "Then it knows me now." Her lips curved slightly, though she quickly hid the expression by looking down again. "Yes. It knows you." They shared another quiet pause. The noise of the city drifted around them, distant and blurred. Here at the tower's base, it felt like they were in a world of their own. Aaron decided to shift the conversation. Tell me about your people. What do you eat? What do you celebrate? Myra hesitated, but his curiosity seemed genuine, so she answered. She told him about their harvest festival, when the skies were filled with lanterns that floated upward like stars. She described their favorite fruit, which glowed softly when sliced open, and how children would chase the lights it gave off in the dark. She explained their custom of marking important moments with small stones, placed carefully in family gardens as reminders of time. Aaron listened with full attention, his eyes never leaving her face. The way she spoke, soft but steady, made him feel like each word was a gift. When she paused, he shared pieces of his own culture. He told her about Earth's seas, wide and endless, and how ships once carried explorers to unknown lands. He described the taste of warm bread fresh from a human oven, and the joy of sitting around a fire with friends. He even told her about human music, how strings and voices could make hearts rise or break with just a few notes. Myra's eyes widened as she listened. Your world sounds alive in a different way. Aaron nodded. Maybe one day I'll show it to you. She looked at him then, really looked, as if measuring the truth of his words. For a moment, her usual reserve slipped, and there was wonder in her expression. But just as quickly, she lowered her gaze again, hiding it behind calm silence. The suns moved higher, and shadows shifted around them. Still, neither of them rose to leave. Time seemed to stretch, each moment carrying a quiet weight. Finally, Myra spoke again. You ask many questions, human. Aaron laughed softly. Curiosity is a habit of mine. And if the answers are not what you expect, she asked, her tone serious now. Then I will learn from them, he replied. That's what humans do. We learn, even when the answers surprise us. Myra studied him for a long moment. Something in his words seemed to touch her, though she did not say what. Instead, she turned back to her sketch, her fingers moving again. Yet Aaron noticed the way her hand moved slower than before, as if her thoughts were elsewhere. As the day began to fade, Aaron finally stood. I'll come again, he said, his voice steady. Myra looked up, her eyes meeting his. For the first time, she gave him a true, gentle smile. We'll see, Aaron. He left the square with his heart lighter than before. The ticking of the clock tower followed him, but this time, it was not only the sound of time, it was the sound of a bond beginning to grow, delicate but undeniable. Days passed, and Aaron found himself returning to the tower again and again. Each time, Myra was there, tablet in hand, tracing lines of the great structure as if she were trying to draw the very soul of it. Their conversations grew longer. At first, they spoke of simple things, food, festivals, and the streets of the city. But slowly, their words began to travel deeper, like rivers flowing toward hidden seas. Aaron noticed how Myra's voice softened when she shared something important. She rarely spoke quickly, but when she did, her words carried a quiet weight, as though she was opening a door that had been closed for a long time. One evening, as the sun began to sink low and the city glowed with shades of gold and violet, Myra looked up from her sketch. Her eyes followed the tower upward, to the great circle of the clock face. Do you want to see inside? She asked suddenly. Aaron blinked in surprise. Inside the tower? She gave a small nod. Few are allowed. But I have studied it for many years. They trust me. Aaron felt his chest tighten with excitement. Yes, he said quickly, almost too quickly. Then he laughed softly. I mean, yes, I would like that. Myra's lips curved into the faintest smile. She rose gracefully, her tablet tucked under her arm. Without another word, she began to walk toward the tower's entrance, a tall arch of stone with symbols carved along its edges. Aaron followed closely, his steps echoing in the quiet space. Inside, the air was cool and heavy. The sound of ticking was louder now, like the heartbeat of a giant. Great gears turned slowly, glowing faintly with golden light. The walls were covered with carvings, some faded with age, others shining as if freshly made. Aaron stood in awe. This is incredible. Myra glanced at him, her eyes calm. It is more than a machine. My people say the tower is alive. It remembers everything that has ever happened in the city. Every step, every voice, every choice. Aaron turned his gaze upward, watching the gears move with perfect precision. Alive, he repeated softly. He wasn't sure if he believed it, but standing here, it was hard to doubt. They began to climb the spiral staircase that wound around the inner walls. Each step brought new sights, gears the size of houses, chains that glowed with faint blue fire, and windows that revealed glimpses of the city far below. The ticking followed them, steady and endless. Why do you believe in it so much? Aaron asked as they climbed. Myra's steps slowed. For a moment, she did not answer. Then she spoke, her voice quieter than before. Because my family's history is tied to this tower. My mother used to bring me here when I was young. She told me stories about how the clock does not only count time, but destiny. Aaron listened closely. Destiny. Yes, Myra said, her hand brushing against the cold stone wall as they walked. She believed that the tower recorded the paths of everyone who entered. She said if you listened closely enough, you could hear whispers of the past, and maybe even hints of the future. Aaron raised a brow. And do you believe that? Myra hesitated. I want to. But sometimes, I wonder if I am only chasing shadows. They reached a small platform halfway up the tower. From here, they could see the gears turning endlessly, shining like stars trapped in metal. Myra sat on the stone bench there, and Aaron joined her. He looked at her quietly for a moment. Her expression was calm, but her eyes carried a depth that spoke of old memories and quiet burdens. You know, Aaron said gently, where I come from, people don't believe in destiny the same way. We believe in choices. That we make our own path. Myra turned her head slightly, meeting his gaze. And what if your choices lead you to places you did not expect? Aaron smiled faintly. Then maybe that's the best part. The surprises. She studied him, her eyes searching for something. For once, the ticking of the tower seemed softer, as if the world itself leaned in to listen. I sometimes feel, Myra whispered, that the tower is not only watching me, but waiting for me to decide something important. Aaron leaned forward slightly, his voice low. And do you know what that decision is? Her gaze lingered on him, steady and unreadable. Not yet. Silence filled the space between them, but it was not empty. The glow of the gears reflected softly on their faces, painting them in warm light. Aaron felt the air grow heavier, not with fear, but with something fragile and unspoken. He wanted to say more, but he held back. Some moments, he realized, did not need words. As the night deepened outside, they finally began their descent. When they stepped out into the cool evening air, the city lights sparkled below like scattered jewels. Myra turned toward Aaron, her expression unreadable but gentle. "Not everyone is shown the inside," she said quietly. "Remember that." Aaron nodded, his heart still racing from the experience. "I will." They stood together in the shadow of the tower, the ticking sound echoing above them. And though neither spoke of it, both felt something had shifted between them. The tower was no longer just stone and gears. It was now a witness to a secret they shared, a step closer, a story unfolding. The days that followed felt different for Aaron. Ever since Myra had taken him inside the clock tower, he carried the memory of the glowing gears and the soft sound of her voice telling old stories. But it was not the tower alone that stayed in his heart, it was Myra. The way her eyes searched for meaning in everything, the way her voice carried both strength and softness, the way she seemed both near and distant at the same time. Each morning, Aaron found himself walking back to the tower. And each morning, Myra was there, waiting, though she never admitted it. Their conversations grew deeper. They spoke of dreams and doubts, of the paths they feared and the ones they wished for. Aaron began to feel that the tower's endless ticking was not only a rhythm of time, it was the rhythm of their bond, growing slowly, quietly, but with power. One evening, rain began to fall. The city streets shimmered with water, lights reflecting like broken stars. Most people hurried home, but Aaron and Myra found themselves inside the clock tower once more, sheltering from the storm. The sound of rain against the high windows mixed with the steady ticking of the gears. It created a strange harmony, soft, heavy, and unending. They stood together on the same platform where Myra had once told him about her mother. The golden glow of the gears painted their faces, and the world outside felt far away. Aaron glanced at her. She sat quietly, her tablet resting beside her, unused. Instead, she was staring at the slow turn of the great clock hands above. Her expression was calm, but her eyes carried a shadow of thought. "What are you thinking about?" Aaron asked gently. Myra's voice was soft when she replied. "I am thinking about the choice I told you of. The one the tower waits for me to make." Aaron tilted his head. "And do you feel closer to the answer?" She hesitated. "Yes, and no. I know what I feel, but I fear what it might mean." Aaron leaned slightly closer, his voice steady. "Fear can be heavy. But sometimes it hides the very thing we need most." Her gaze shifted to him then, meeting his eyes. For a long moment, they simply looked at each other. Aaron felt his chest tighten. There was something unspoken between them, something that had grown from their quiet talks and shared silences. It was fragile, but it was also strong like a flame in the dark. Myra's lips parted slightly, as if she wanted to say something, but the words never came. Instead, she turned her eyes away, back to the rain sliding down the glass. Aaron took a slow breath. He knew what his heart wanted to say, but he held it back. He did not want to break the fragile thread of trust between them. Yet the temptation pressed hard, the closeness of the moment urging him forward. "Myra," he said quietly, almost a whisper. "Do you ever wonder why we keep meeting here? Why it feels like we are drawn back to the same place, again and again?" She turned back to him, her eyes steady now. "I wonder," she admitted. "But I do not have the answer." "Maybe it is not the tower," Aaron said softly. "Maybe it is us." The ticking filled the silence that followed, louder than before, as if marking every heartbeat. Myra's face softened, but there was still hesitation in her gaze. "I have always feared," she began, her voice low. Feared that if I let someone close, I would lose myself. That they would not understand my bond with this tower, with my people. Aaron shook his head gently. You are not alone in that. Humans fear the same. But sometimes, we discover that sharing our heart does not mean losing it, it means finding it in someone else's care. Myra's eyes glimmered faintly, as if torn between caution and hope. The rain fell harder outside, the sound filling the chamber like a song. Aaron felt the pull inside him grow stronger, the temptation to close the distance between them, to let his heart speak fully. Yet he stayed still, letting her decide. Slowly, Myra reached for her tablet, but instead of sketching, she let it rest on her lap. Her hands folded over it, and she leaned slightly closer, not much, but enough for Aaron to notice. Her voice was soft, almost lost under the ticking. I do not know what tomorrow will bring. But tonight, I feel as if time itself has stopped. Aaron's heart pounded, yet he kept his voice gentle. Then let's hold this moment, Myra. No destiny, no fear, just us. Their eyes met again, and in that fragile silence, both of them understood. Words were not enough to explain the pull they felt. It was temptation, yes, but not the dangerous kind. It was the temptation of trust, of opening a door long kept closed, of believing that perhaps two souls, human and alien, were meant to meet beneath the timeless ticking of a clock tower. Outside, the rain poured on, but inside, the gears turned steadily, as if blessing the bond forming between them. The city felt unusually quiet the next morning. Clouds hung low, soft shadows falling over the shining streets. Aaron walked to the tower with a strange mix of excitement and worry. After the night in the rain, he felt closer to Myra than ever, yet he knew the next steps could change everything between them. He had to be careful, but he could not hide the truth any longer. He wanted her in his life. When he reached the base of the tower, Myra was already there. She sat on the stone steps, tablet closed beside her, gazing up at the great clock face. Her expression was calm, yet Aaron noticed the faint tension in her shoulders. Something weighed on her mind. Good morning, he said softly, trying to keep his voice steady. She turned her head slowly, meeting his eyes. Good morning, Aaron. For a moment, they did not speak, letting the city sounds drift around them. Finally, Myra broke the silence. People are talking, she said quietly. About me, and you. Aaron frowned. Talking? Why? We've done nothing wrong. She sighed, her fingers lightly touching the edge of her tablet. Not wrong, just unusual. A human spending so much time with me. Some believe it is not proper. He studied her face. Myra did not seem angry or sad, just worried, caught between her feelings and the expectations of her world. Does it matter? He asked gently. If what we feel is real. She hesitated, looking down at her hands. It matters because the tower, and my people, expect certain things. I cannot ignore them. Aaron stepped closer, his voice quiet but firm. Myra, the tower has shown us wonders. It has revealed secrets of the past. But it cannot decide our hearts. That is something only we can choose. Her eyes lifted to his, searching for truth. And what if my choice brings trouble? Then we face it together, Aaron replied. I am not leaving. Not now, not ever. Myra's gaze softened, and she gave him a small, hesitant smile. For the first time, there was a light in her eyes that seemed free from worry, if only for a moment. They began walking around the base of the tower, stepping carefully through the wet stones. The sound of distant bells echoed softly, mingling with the low hum of the clock's gears. Aaron noticed how her hand brushed against the tablet, then rested loosely on her lap. "Myra," he said after a pause, "I do not care about rules or whispers. I only care about you. What you want, what you feel. That is the choice that matters." She looked down at the ground, her fingers fidgeting slightly. Then, slowly, she lifted her head and met his gaze again. "And what if I choose to follow my heart?" Aaron's chest tightened with hope. "Then I promise you, I will follow mine too. Whatever happens, we face it together." The wind picked up, rustling her hair gently across her face. She brushed it aside and let out a deep breath, as if letting go of months of quiet fear. The tower stood above them, massive and eternal, but somehow it felt smaller in that moment, like it was waiting for their decision rather than controlling it. "I have always been careful," Myra admitted, her voice soft. "Careful not to trust, careful not to feel too much. But," she paused, searching his eyes. "But I feel that I cannot ignore this. Not you. Not us." Aaron's heart soared. He stepped closer, closing the small distance between them, but he did not reach out yet. He wanted her choice to be her own, not a reaction to his desire. The ticking of the clock seemed louder now, almost as if it were counting down the moments until she spoke her truth. "I choose," Myra said finally, her voice steady and quiet. "I choose to be here, with you. Even if it is unusual, even if it brings whispers. I will not hide what I feel." Aaron's lips curved into a gentle smile. "Then neither will I." They stood together for a long moment, simply looking at one another, feeling the bond that had grown slowly over days and nights of shared curiosity, quiet conversation, and tender glances. For once, the outside world, the expectations, the whispers, all of it melted away. Aaron reached out, carefully, and took Myra's hand. She did not pull away. Instead, her fingers intertwined with his, warm and steady. This is the choice," Aaron said softly, feeling the weight of it and the freedom it brought. "Not the tower, not anyone else, ours." Myra nodded, a small, relieved smile forming on her lips. "Ours." The suns began to set, casting long golden shadows across the tower and the city. The ticking of the clock, endless and eternal, became a gentle reminder that time was theirs to shape together. And in that moment, both of them understood that love, human and alien, quiet and steady, was stronger than fear, stronger than whispers, and stronger than destiny itself. For Aaron and Myra, the choice was made. And nothing could turn them back. The city was quiet under the soft glow of the twin moons. Even the markets, usually alive with movement, had gone to rest, leaving the streets empty except for the occasional passerby. But the clock tower stood tall and bright, its gears turning steadily, and its ticking echoing across the city like the heartbeat of the world. Aaron walked toward it, feeling a calm warmth inside him. He knew Myra would be there, she always was. But tonight felt different. Tonight was not just another meeting, another chance to speak. Tonight felt like the start of something permanent, something unshakable. When he reached the base of the tower, she was already waiting. Myra stood quietly, looking up at the great clock, the golden light reflecting in her eyes. Her tablet was tucked away, forgotten for now. She turned when she sensed him approaching, and a small smile appeared on her lips. "Aaron," she said softly. "I was wondering if you would come." "I promised," he replied, smiling. "And I always keep my promises." There was a brief pause. The city's lights shimmered on the wet stones, casting long reflections. The world felt still, as if it too were waiting for them to act. "Do you ever think about the future?" Myra asked quietly. Her voice was calm, but there was curiosity and hope in it. "Every day," Aaron said. "But I used to worry. I thought the future was something that happened to us, something we could not touch. But now, I think we can shape it ourselves." Myra's eyes softened. "Even if others do not understand?" "Yes," he said firmly. "Even then. Our hearts, our choices, that is what matters. Not whispers, not fear." They walked slowly around the base of the tower, hands almost brushing but not yet touching. The sound of the ticking filled the space between them, a rhythm that seemed to match the beat of their hearts. Finally, Aaron stopped and looked at her. "Myra, I want you to know something. Not about the tower, not about the city, about us." Myra tilted her head slightly, waiting, her expression open. "I cannot imagine being anywhere else without you," he said softly. "Not tomorrow, not next week, not in the years to come. I want to face everything with you. The towers, the streets, the unknown. I want to be by your side." For a moment, Myra said nothing. She only looked at him, her eyes reflecting the light of the tower and the moons above. Then, slowly, she reached out her hand. Her fingers touched his, and Aaron felt a warmth spread through him that was stronger than anything he had ever known. "I feel the same," she whispered. "I have tried to hold back, tried to be careful. But I cannot ignore it anymore. I want the same as you. To be with you, no matter what." Aaron smiled, gently holding her hand. "Then it is decided. We will walk our path together." Myra's lips curved into a full smile now, bright and freeing. For the first time, her usual caution was gone. She stepped closer, and they stood side by side, hands intertwined, looking up at the great clock above them. The gears moved endlessly, the hands turning steadily, but to them, it was no longer only a clock measuring time, it was a witness to their bond, to the choice they had made, and the love that had grown between them. The city seemed to hum around them, the lights shining like stars scattered across the stones. The towers, the markets, the streets, they all faded into the background, leaving only the two of them, standing together. In that moment, it did not matter what others thought. What mattered was trust, understanding, and a love that was simple, true, and brave. Aaron squeezed Myra's hand gently. "No matter what happens, the tower or the city, we will face it together." She nodded. Together. As the twin moons rose higher, casting silver light across the city, Aaron and Myra stood close, letting the quiet warmth of the night fill them. Time continued to move, the clock above still ticking, but for them, it felt as if time itself had paused. Not because it had stopped, but because they had found something that would last longer than any clock, something timeless. They stayed like that until the first light of dawn began to touch the edges of the city, the shadows of the towers growing long and soft. And as they finally turned to walk down the streets together, side by side, neither looked back. They had made their choice. They had taken their chance. And the bond they shared, human and alien, gentle and strong, was now unbreakable. The clock tower continued its eternal rhythm, but now it was no longer just a monument. It had witnessed the beginning of a love that was steadfast, brave, and timeless. And for Aaron and Myra, the world ahead was wide, full of possibilities, and theirs to shape together.